Welcome to the Mindful Momentum Leadership Podcast, where we honestly talk about what it takes to lead when the world refuses to slow down and why presence matters more than ever. Today's conversation is a special one. I met today's guest not through LinkedIn or formal introduction, but as a neighbor during my recent stay in Bangalore. What started as a simple conversation, actually, we met over getting some details of a handyman. Then I get to learn about Nandini, and that quickly revealed depth of experience Nandini has in the field that is so dear to me. Nandini Chawla is the CEO of TV Rao Learning Systems, a leadership and talent development company that has worked with organizations across industries to build leaders, strengthen teams, and shape culture. And what makes this perspective unique is she brings the lens of someone who has grown through multiple roles herself, from engineering to sales to marketing, and now leading an organization that develops leaders. Very recently, they celebrated their 30th anniversary, and of which Nandini has been part of for 25 years, Nandini?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, and I am really looking forward to our conversation today. Welcome. So glad to have you here.
Th Thank you so much, Anu. It's my pleasure and privilege to be on your podcast.
So, Nandini, when we were talking about your journey, and it's been fascinating, from engineering to sales to marketing, and now CEO of this company, which is serving globally. There's so many places you go and do leadership and talent development. Tell me how this journey has been like, these transitions, and what's brought you here.
Yeah, so I think it's I've always been a hardworking kid, always given my best for whatever I do, and I didn't have any clear likes or dislikes growing up.
Hmm.
So, as any ordinary student, did my 10th, did my 12th, all of it was in state board. So, I was educated, my entire schooling happened in Gujarat. And I think at that time, there were largely two professions, either you do engineering or you do medical.
That's correct.
Uh,
I did engineering for the same reason.
Exactly. So I think it's a common, stereotype at that time. You didn't have too many options. So you did have other options like a BSc or a BA, but somewhere in my mind, the whole idea was, what can I do so that I can get a good job at the end of the graduation? That was a simple goalpost that I had in mind.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, Not really sure about, what I will do after that. So did my engineering on campus, got couple of jobs, and that's when I realized that I am not likely to be the type who will work and then get back to studies. Because by
Mm,
then I had this knowledge about myself. It is best if I continue at a stretch and finish my entire education.
mm, mm, mm,
So though, my parents did want me to, work for a couple of years before doing a post graduation, I said no. And finally, studied for the entrance exams and got into Nasi Munji Institute, Mumbai.
mm, mm, mm,
And I think initially I did have sparks of getting into human resources because I would hear my dad, who was a professor, who kept talking a lot about HR. So I've grown up listening to, some of the books or, some of the theories that he had. And I knew at some point I will do HR, but when I did my MBA, I specialized in marketing with international business because
mm.
Nasimunji was known for marketing. And that's how the journey began. And so it was from engineering to management. And that's when then I joined Titan Industries in the area of sales and marketing.
Mm, mm, mm,
And then I worked in corporate for a couple of years. And then after 4.5 years, I then moved out and set up at that time, TV Raw Learning Systems was looking at setting in the South, setting up and, expanding because there was an IT boom. There were a lot of ITES organizations. So very senior colleague of mine, Dr. Gopal Mahapatra and me, we set up the Bangalore branch of this organization.
Oh, wow. Wow, what an amazing journey. And I remember you telling me that you used to accompany your father on these, his lectures. And sometimes we'll get into discussion about leadership. Do you think that kind of influenced your early years to think about leadership in a different way?
Yes, it did, but I think I had more theoretical knowledge. I think I was still very raw. I didn't really get too much knowledge until when I joined TV Raw Learning Systems. We used to do something called a 360-degree feedback.
Mm,
And
mm,
it was through that entire journey that I really got a deeper insight into what 360 is and what is leadership all about.
mm,
So
mm,
I think for me, I had some broad understanding. I think there are so many definitions of leadership that it's very nebulous if you
mm,
really have to say what does it mean. But I think as I was reading and preparing for a workshop in 360, there were some books that came my way, and one of it was a very nice model by two gentlemen, Zenger and Folkman, and that model very clearly explained what is leadership all about.
mm,
So I
mm.
think that got my interest. And as I, dug a little deeper, I worked with a lot of leaders, saw so much of the power of a simple process like a 360. I think that's when I started getting clarity.
Wow, wow, wow. Were there some insecurities before you joined in this kind of a role, on how you take on to be the CEO of this company and, go and work with large organizations? You worked with multinationals and really big names.
Yeah. So when I initially joined, I think I had 5 years of corporate experience. And yes, I think the insecurities were more in my mind, not as much as what I felt others, viewed me as. It was more in my mind. And one of the biggest thing is, I didn't have age on my side. I was young. And, let's say 25 years back, I looked a lot more younger. So,
You still look very young, Nandini. If 25 years back, that must be another life you're talking about.
yeah, so I used to feel, a little worried that will people take me seriously? And very
Hmm.
often the participants that I used to facilitate a workshop were way senior than me in age and experience. So
Hmm.
these were the things that would, that would keep cropping up, those insecurities. But you know what I did? I used that to prepare a lot more. I
Hmm.
would read a lot more, and though one has grown up in that atmosphere, I think that insecurity, I channelized it. I would prepare a lot more for these sessions. I would study everybody's 360 report so that I kind of knew who was the person I'm talking to.
Wow, wow, wow. And you said that these, once you got into the job, you really understood what leadership was. What did you discover? What were the key insights that shaped your next decades of your life?
So, when I started initially, maybe the first couple of years, I was a little bit like a school teacher. I would have this is the syllabus for a workshop. I must complete this. If I
Mm,
don't complete this, I'm not doing justice.
mm,
And
mm,
even though the participants may not know what is all on the agenda, I was a little, very, very regimented. I wouldn't go at a pace looking at what they want.
mm,
But I
mm,
think that's when I worked with Gopal, and he gave me a very big input. He said, always try and sense what people want and go as per that. So, in one of my early workshops, I was doing a performance management workshop, and there were a lot of the participants who were very, very dejected because they had either not got promoted on time. And I realized I was here to teach, to share with them a philosophy of performance management. And they had all come to the workshop with a lot of internal turbulence. That's when I decided, let me keep my agenda on the side. Let me just get them to share what they're going through. So
mm.
I just let my entire schedule be derailed, and I said, come on, speak out whatever has happened to you. And for the next half an hour, there was catharsis. All of them said how, they didn't have managers who actually spend time developing them. And at the end of it, I just then told them that I said, I feel bad. Yes, whatever has happened. But for the next half a day, the only objective here is that when your juniors come for such a workshop, I don't ever want them speaking this about you. So what happened to you? We can't do much, but what you can do with your juniors, I think that let us change that narrative. So I realized how the entire workshop energy changed because I realized, that just stopping, understanding where they're coming from, and keeping your agenda on the side will help you go through the whole workshop in a much nicer manner. It's a win-win for both sides. So I think I've had these kind of little instances which have, helped me grow, helped me understand. And then I moved from this regimented approach to a workshop and I became a lot more flexible. I started also enjoying. Initially, I used to be a little skeptical on performance management workshops, because there's so many people with so much of, emotions. So I think I've just been lucky. I've, grown along the way and learned a lot more. The theory is what I understood through all these workshops.
Yeah, and you demonstrated it through example. Some of the behaviors which you probably are wanting them to shift are the behaviors then you started bringing them to the workshop. You were listening in listening mode, you were in understanding mode, you were in empathy mode, and then you were setting them up for success from that place where they opened up to receive more instead of if they are afraid and they are in complaint mode, they won't be absorbing what you are teaching them.
Yes. I think like the way your podcast is titled, I was a lot more mindful. I think, and that started only in my journey with TVRLS. Otherwise, I don't think I was very mindful. It was just do mode, whatever comes on your plate, just execute, do.
Yeah.
Not too much of thinking.
Yeah, that's amazing. And it reflects, right? It reflects on the organization you have built, the teams you have formed, the companies you have gone and trained in, and long-term engagements you have had with your partners. It's all reflected in all the success you've had. Yeah.
I think I've just been fortunate.
You are humble too. So the other thing, Nandini, is you guys have created the state of art 360 feedback system. Right? This system has in various forms, but the original is what you have brought to the world, is now used all over the world by even some of the largest corporations. But yet, when you and I were talking, you said they don't quite fully understand it and can sometimes misuse the system. So, can you help us understand what it is and what should 360 feedback systems look like and what's missing today in how people view it?
So, 360-degree feedback, Professor Rao, our chairman, used to use it in IIM Ahmedabad itself when they used to do programs for entrepreneurs. But we were very late. We didn't brand it as 360. It was branded probably by the US. So we used to just call it a multi-rater feedback. And IIM, they used to use a lot of this in their management development programs. But post that, I think a lot of work via the probably unique consulting company. We have done 4 conferences on 360-degree feedback. We have got our clients to write papers and we have, published it. So huge amount of work that we have done in 360. And one of the things that we still see is that there is a lot of misconception and a lot of fear also. So typically, I think a tool like this is best used not as an assessment tool, but more as a development tool. Because you have enough tools and organization has to give you, numbers or to assess your performance. But what is the chemistry that you're really generating at the workplace? That is something which a 360 really gives you a lot more insights. And the way we treat it, an example of our holistic view is we even invite family members in the 360. So even if you're in corporate, we're doing it for, heads of departments or for CEO, we say, please invite few of your family members. You could have parents, you could have children who are old enough to answer. So number one, I think a lot of people don't, there is some kind of a apprehension that is this going to be used to promote? Is this going to be used to take decisions? Therefore, people don't wholeheartedly embrace it. And they don't, realize that it's largely a tool meant for development. That is the first thing. Second thing is, I think the preparation that is done, because you need to not only prepare the participants, but also have some sessions to help all the respondents appreciate it. So imagine if you choose 10 people from whom you want feedback, we should be talking to all those 10 and sensitizing them, that please give feedback which is truthful, but with some amount of grace. So that is also something. And also, doing a 360 without having a coaching conversation is like getting your executive health checkup report without anyone to talk to it.
Yeah, I mean, they make their own call. Oh my, I am dying because my number is high. Right, right,
Yes,
without looking at other numbers. Right, one number they
exactly.
will see, the one which is spiked up and freak out.
Yes,
Right.
yes. And 360 is contextual. So let us say you have a team of people who your entire team never listens to rules, regulations, and they never come on time. So you may have a leader who needs to be critical. That is a context. So I'm not going to tell that leader that in your current situation, you have to be critical. But maybe I'll work with the leader and tell him that what do you do about these team members? Do you need to make sure that they move to another department? So 360 is contextual, and therefore, unless you don't have a dialogue with the participant to understand the context and come up with a clear roadmap, so that level of investment, I think it will be nice if people can appreciate and understand the power of something like that.
It's so
So,
powerful and it's a growth tool, right?
yes,
It's basically, it's not an assessment per se. It is something which can help people grow to the next level of leadership.
exactly, exactly. And I think, the ability to get huge amount of feedback, to hear things which are not so positive, and to go out saying that, what can I do to use my strengths more? What can I do to work around my areas of improvement? I think that is where the journey of leadership actually gets strengthened.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. I also love something else you said. It is with grace. Tell the truth, but
Yes,
with grace. Because
yes,
people are, it's very difficult to give constructive feedback. And
yes.
I've been manager for in my last life for many, many years. And I knew how difficult it was to give feedback like that, but how difficult it was to receive feedback like that. I would see people just shrink, become small, become defensive. And so I think a coaching session to help them prepare and view this feedback as an opportunity to grow versus shrink, that it is not pointing fingers at them, it is helping them see them from a broader lens.
Yes, exactly. And at senior levels, ignorance is not bliss. Because imagine you have no clue what you're doing. And I think the more senior you go, you are surrounded by a lot more people who will only tell you what they think you want to hear. So what do you do to make sure? And therefore the preparation has to be very, very solid. So we tell them, if you ever go for an executive health checkup and the pathologist tells you you've got very high cholesterol, you're not going to shoot the pathologist down, right? So because the person is trying to help you. So similarly, even in a 360, people are trying to help you. So I think if you are able to see it with that lens, then you should technically be more grateful that people are showing you the mirror, because they care for you, and therefore they believe there is scope for you to do something better. So I think that preparation that is needed to help them interpret the feedback, and after it, come up with something concrete that they can do. Just pick up that one area of strength and how they can help others with it, or just that one area of improvement and how do they subdue the ill impact of that. That entire cycle is necessary for something like this to be successful.
Yeah, yeah. And you have kind of had amazing success with this. Is it because you set it up like this? When you go and work with the companies, you have a whole process around how you implement it?
Yeah, so for us, a success would be when a person who has gone through this themselves report change. That for us is success. And in some cases, we have had mixed, but we have always seen that when we do an effort review, where we ask people 1 year down the line to share with us, what has been the impact, 90% of them say that it has helped them in their professional and their personal life. There are 10% who would, because uh, maybe their heart was not in it, maybe, the organization mandated. So you'll always have certain set of people who don't believe, in
Yeah.
some of this. But I think if 90% believe and they feel they have themselves changed, there's a self-reported change, I think that's good for us.
Yeah, I like that. Does the person say they feel that they have changed?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because let's say you've lost weight. I mean, only the person who has lost, even if it's 1 kilo, can feel it.
Yeah, yeah, that is
Unless you don't lose 5, 6 kilos, no one will even, but
notice
you
it.
know the truth.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah,
so we're happy with what they say.
yeah, yeah. You've had range of experiences in terms of working with different types of organization, different types of leaders. What do you see is the biggest challenge with leadership today?
So I feel lot of the times, many of the people in corporate focus on what is measurable and where you get immediate return. For example, there is a lot of focus on technical capability, or there's a lot of focus on your goals because it's measurable. It is, it can be put on like a board. You can have it is there for everyone to see. But when you look at leadership, it's not as quantifiable as, let's say, turnover targets, or anything else, like, let's say, quality parameters, etc. So because it is not so clearly measurable, I feel sometimes people are more comfortable with chasing things which are tangible. So I don't, it's more easy because you can see results much quicker. That's number one. Number two, I think very often in many people's mind, this therefore is not a priority. And this, for it to become a priority, I think a necessary condition is some amount of reflection. Unless you don't reflect and unless you don't think back, and no, you don't reflect only on the technical or on the achievement, but you reflect on the way one has got about achieving those targets, or the impact you have created, or have your words created a positive or a negative impact, or what kind of a role model are you? Unless reflection is not done on that, you don't land up giving it importance, and you continue to chase things which are more easy to measure.
And one of the challenge is this VUCA world, which is moving at such an lightning speed. I mean, look at with how AI is changing the way the job market looks like today. And people are more in that sometimes in survival mode, right? Instead of thriving. Has it changed leadership in any ways? Do you see with more change happening? Is it becoming worse? Is it becoming better? What, or is just the same challenges continue to exist?
No, I think there are cycles, and we are now in a cycle where there is, like you said, there's a lot of infusion and uncertainty over AI. There is a lot of it, but I think with all the narratives that are going around, for many of the organizations, I think we have to go back to basics. And one of the basics is how can we be more human?
Ah, yeah, yeah.
Because in a lot of this, what's happening is, I think only if you're more human can you understand what people are going through. And you have to be human in the way you're treating. So even companies where there's an infusion of AI, the way you communicate to people, even if there is, let us say, for some reason, there may be a change, a restructuring, or whatever have you. I think you have to be more human in today's age, because if there is so much of AI, which is all artificial, then what's natural is the human nature.
Yeah.
So I feel somewhere the moment will come where we will pull back, and this entire thing of bringing out the humanness, especially in organizations and also in functions like HR, functions like L&D, or even the top C-suite. I think this is a time where we have to be more of that, because there are too many things which are beyond our control. There are too many things which have created so much dynamism. So people are also post COVID also, there is some sort of fragility. And therefore, for that, I feel this is going to be a very important. So two things. One is being more human and more gratitude.
Mm, 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 mm. And explain me how would we bring this to organizations? How a company like yours will take it to organizations? Because they are definitely, I totally agree with what you are saying. Um, I feel that our biggest differentiators of good leadership will be the ones who will now step into humanity even at a level higher than ever. So how do organizations like yours, and I'm basically a two people organization, can bring it to the companies?
So, a simple thing, we were talking about 360-degree feedback. So what we are doing is actually post COVID, in all our 360-degree tool or instrument that we are using, we have included gratitude towards, for whatever it is, gratitude towards the people who have built the organization, gratitude towards people who serve, so we are trying our level best. We have included it because when you include it and you get feedback on that, in a natural way, you have to put the spotlight on it.
Mm,
So we
mm,
are doing that. And similarly, a lot of the examples we give, the narratives we give, we are including a lot of this being human as well.
mm, mm,
So the examples that we take, for example, let us say there is a situation where someone may have to let somebody go. But what is the way in which you do it? Is it a sign that you get sleepless nights before? And there is a way, a more empathetic person would say that it is something that we are going through. But at some point, if things reverse, you're the first person I will call back,
mm, mm,
versus being very, very stonewalled about it. And, or a simple thing, not even keeping people in the loop as to what's happening all around.
mm,
So
mm,
whatever you can do to help them. So just that little bit of a human touch.
mm,
Sometimes it could also be asking a person, how are you? But being totally mindful of the answer, because sometimes it's cursory. Oh, how are you? I got to go.
It's
So
just
if,
like cursory.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yes, you don't really want to know, the details. So little things, I think the examples we're giving have changed. So these are the little ways in which we're, kind of, or speaking about it in forums wherever you're invited.
Yeah, 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 yeah. No, uh, I like the idea of bringing gratitude into a system itself, right? People have talked about gratitude and, oh, think of three things you're grateful for, but building into the processes and systems, you're creating a habit of it. Now,
Yes.
it is when they're filling up the form, they are thinking of this.
Yes, exactly. So that itself is a mechanism to, help people focus on it.
Right, right, right. When you look at your career ahead, how do you think of, the next 10 years in all the shifts happening, and, how is your organization going to evolve and grow? where is your mind and heart at?
That's a very interesting question. And because of what's happening, all around, one does think about it. 10 years is a little bit of a long term, but next maybe 5 years, I
Five?
think,
Okay.
yes,
Five
five,
is
I think
okay.
is safe.
You decide. I'm not deciding how many years you want to be doing what, so you choose.
Yeah. So I think I recently became a PCC coach. So I've
Mhm.
moved to the second level of coaching. So I've been doing coaching last couple of years, and I'm seeing a lot of positive output and experience. So I have a feeling for the next couple of years, at least I would like to do a lot more in the coaching space.
Hmm.
So we have a couple of other colleagues in TVRLS who are accredited in, ICF accredited. So we are looking eventually at, doing more programs on coaching, mentoring, and helping people, navigate through and get to a better future or better versions of themselves to coaching. So that is one thing that I certainly feel that we will do. Second thing, we do a lot of consulting work for corporates. We are looking at doing a lot more even with management institutes.
Hmm. Hmm.
So we want to kind of catch them young and see if all the knowledge that we have learned through consulting, how do we influence them, and how do we also get more people interested in the space of talent management, organizational development. I do see a lot more knowledge sharing. I do see a lot more webinars. I do see a lot of consulting in areas of leadership development, a lot more curated programs, which are over a year. They're not just, you come, do, and go, but a little extended where we handhold, where you could have a coaching track, you could have a learning track. So I see, more deeper engagements and also reaching out to more students and changing the mechanism of knowledge transfer.
Yeah, and teach them young. I mean, leadership is not often taught. How to receive, feedback that helps us grow is not taught. There's so much privilege now in, certain sectors of the society where children are, being brought up with so many, mm, so many things where they kind of take everything for granted. So when
Yes.
first time they are told that you suck at this or you need to get better, it comes as a shock to them. Nobody's
Yes.
ever told them.
True. And sometimes, if someone external tells them, it's better than your immediate people
Yeah,
telling them. So, use it as a vehicle to influence them.
yeah.
And I think sometimes teaching youngsters is refreshing in its own way.
I know, I know. Yeah, this is amazing. So, for our listeners, as they are listening to you and they are intrigued with the work you have done and all the things we've discussed so far, and they want to become a better leader themselves, where would they begin?
Uh, I think very important, like I may have mentioned also, is a simple practice of some time for yourself, which is either it's reflection or it could be, just maybe even 10 minutes a day, either in the morning or in the evening before you, sleep. It's some time to reflect. I think that is something very important because it's that mindfulness, again, the way your podcast is titled.
Yeah, yeah.
Somewhere, if you can incorporate moments of mindfulness where you can reflect on what you did good, what you didn't do, that's number one. And number two, I think being a constant learner, because the more you learn, the more you know how much more you don't know. That's how you. So, and I think learning, one of the things I have learned from life is no matter how busy you are, you can make everything a source of learning. So even if you look at movies, sometimes we have a discussion on the dinner table on Friends, it's everyone has seen the serial Friends.
Yeah.
And we have this discussion on which character do you like? Are we judging somebody too much? And why do you like a particular character? So learning can be from anywhere. It could be from the help in your house, it could be from the serials that you watch, it could be from a movie, or it could be through formal education. Maybe you set a target that every year I will do one new program. So I think the more you learn, it just helps you broaden your horizon, and that itself is a good starting point on this journey.
Yeah.
So I feel somewhere time to reflect and learning from everywhere. Your sources of learning could be a great conversation with a colleague. It could be observing, your seniors interact with somebody. It could be from the TV serials or the movies that you watch. So I think somewhere if you just turn on that switch, that yes, everything can be a learning experience. I think these are two very simple mechanisms, and that's sure to give you a good boost into this journey.
Mm-hmm. And I love it. It can be simple. When people say, I don't have time to learn something, that's not true. I mean, life itself is a source of learning, and you are
Yes,
inviting us to do that. Such a
yes.
beautiful invitation. Uh, we can stop at that. Is there anything else you'd like to add? Uh,
No, that's it. I think it's been wonderful. You got me to think while I was answering. All your questions got me to, think a little, reflect, go down memory lane. It was like a good recap for me as well, So I thoroughly enjoyed
Wow, it's been a pleasure
it.
speaking to you, Nandini, and we'll see you on our show again because this is all about mindful leadership, and you are an epitome, an example of mindful leadership. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Anu.